Should hospital workers be mandated to get the COVID vaccine? This question was at the heart of a federal lawsuit filed in Texas by several hundred hospital workers who did not want to be vaccinated. A federal judge ruled against those workers. So we wanted to know what the future of vaccine mandates looks like here in Alabama. Our Nixon Norman went looking for those answers.
Almost everyone has an opinion on the topic. Should hospitals, schools, places of work mandate people to take the COVID-19 vaccine?
I think they should have the freedom to make that choice. And especially being in America, we've fought so much for our freedom.
I spoke with others who declined an on-camera interview, but their sentiments were similar, that people should be able to make that choice for themselves and that the vaccine was rushed.
It's a drug that hasn't even, been approved officially. So considering that, you should have a choice.
Last year, on December 11th, the FDA issued the first emergency use authorization, a special authorization that allows use in emergencies, such as a global pandemic. Alabama State Health Officer Dr. Karen Landers says that because vaccines were authorized this way, it's hard to mandate them.
Pfizer has applied for really full authorization. It is currently under emergency use authorization, but they have applied for full authorization. I do expect Moderna to do the same thing.
But she does recognize that people working in the medical field have a responsibility to keep others safe from the virus, although the vaccine is not mandated here in Alabama.
Now, we do recognize that persons that are working in high-risk entities, such as hospitals, that hospitals might look at policies within their agency or within their entity in order to protect very high-risk persons. Again, we have to remember not everyone has the same immune response to COVID, and also to protect the ability of that facility.
Despite the differing opinions, health experts still strongly encourage everyone to get vaccinated. Putting the Valley first, Nixon Norman, WZDX News.